Some forests feel alive. When you step into the Hoia Baciu forest, it feels like it's watching you. People walk into its crooked trees and come out changed. If they come out at all, watches stop. Voices call your name from places no human could stand. And in the clearing where nothing grows, the air itself feels like it's holding its breath. Today we're stepping into Romania's most infamous woodland, a body of water deep in Siberia, so ancient it feels alive. A story about a geographical anomaly in Washington that locals swear it swallows more than objects, it swallows reality. And a quiet morning in Oakville where something strange fell from the sky. Welcome to Shifting Veils. I'm Michelle,
And I am Isaiah.
and today we are talking about three of the strangest locations on the planet and one very otherworldly event that is yet to be explained. Hoia Baciu sits just outside Cluj-Napoca, Romania. On a map it looks ordinary, just another patch of green. But step inside and the forest changes shape around you. The trees twist into spirals, loops, and corkscrews, as if something grabbed them mid-growth and wrung them like wet cloth. Have you heard of this place before?
No.
I was looking at photographs of it when I was reading about it. The trees are weird. I don't know. I need to look into it a little bit more on as far as the trees go, because I don't know if it's a species that's just how it grows, or if that's how it grows there. But they do just like they'll just be growing straight up, and then all of a sudden they're all like, all twisty and contorted, kind of like how what's his name in Stranger Things? What do you do to people's bones? They would, like break in different directions.
Oh,
That's how these
yeah.
trees look. It's freaky.
Yes, I'm looking it up
Botanists have
right
tried to
now.
explain it, soil tests, climate patterns, disease models, but nothing fits. It's as if the forest is reacting to something we can't see. And see, that's so it seems like it's not the species of the tree.
I have
It's
seen these trees before.
okay. Yeah, they're weird, right? I
Ooh,
mean, they're
that's really
neat, but it's
pretty odd.
odd.
Yeah, for sure. And not all of them are twisted. Some of them look kind of just bent, like something big just kind of sat in it. Like,
Right. Yeah. Maybe something big did sit in it.
hmm,
We just don't see it.
well,
I
I
don't
mean,
know. That's just the beginning. The oldest story tied to Hoia Baciu is simple, and that's what makes it so unsettling. A shepherd walked into the forest with 200 sheep, and he never walked out. No bodies, no tracks, no remains, just gone.
what did the sheep do to him?
I don't, they ate him. I guess. I don't know. Were the sheep still there?
Can
I don't,
can sheep be like hogs?
something stole the sheep and did something with him. I don't know.
The sheep stole the shepherd.
Maybe. The legend is old enough that it predates written records, but it's the story locals still whisper when tourists ask why they don't hike there after sunset. It's the first hint that Hoia Baciu doesn't just frighten people, it takes them. Fast forward to 1968, a military technician named Emil Barnia is out in the forest with friends. It's a bright afternoon, no fog, no tricks of the light. He sees something metallic rise above the tree line. A disc, silent and reflective, hovering. He snaps a photograph. That photo becomes one of Europe's most debated UFO images. Romanian authorities Romanian authorities dismissed it as weather phenomena, but meteorologists disagreed, and so did the people who saw the craft with their own eyes. Hoia Baciu wasn't just haunted anymore, it was active. There's a clearing deep inside the forest where nothing grows, no grass, no shrubs, not even fungi. Investigators call it the dead zone. Locals call it the circle. I got real country for a second. Soil tests showed nothing unusual. No toxins, no radiation, no reason for the land to be barren. And yet the circle remains perfectly empty. like something scorched the life out of it without leaving a trace. People who stand in the center report sudden nausea, dizziness, a feeling of being watched from above, and calmingly, none of this is calming. most most commonly, missing time. One investigator described it as standing in the eye of something that doesn't blink.
You know what I'm noticing, because I'm looking at these photos while you're talking, and
Mhm.
I'm not seeing any photos of the circle, like like being in, like from within the circle.
Yeah,
All the photos of the dead zone are from above and off to the side. They're never directly above, and they're never within the circle.
maybe cameras
That's
don't work.
I was gonna say that's kind of eerie right there,
Yeah,
because like you're describing right now, all the different things that happen if you enter into that circle.
right.
It's kind of nutty.
One of the most chilling accounts comes from the 1970s. A woman entered the forest with friends. She stepped behind a tree just for a moment. When she didn't return, her friends searched for hours. Then, just as suddenly, she reappeared. She was disoriented, she was confused, clutching a metal key from the 1950s she didn't recognize. I guess it was just in the style of a key from the 1950s.
Well, I would assume it's more of a skeleton key, probably.
Yeah, it's a weird assumption to make, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it'd have to be a skeleton key or something like that. Her
Did
watch
they
had stopped.
did,
Oh.
did they use metal keys back then? Maybe it was a wooden key.
Jeez. Probably, yeah. Her watch had stopped. Her hair had partially turned white, and she had no memory of the missing hours.
So real quick, I did look up the white hair thing real quick,
Hmm.
because I was curious about that when I was reading through this. And I was wondering what would cause it to like happen like suddenly like that. And they said it was over hours, and there are cases of people's hair going white within hours. Marie Antoinette, it's called the Marie Antoinette syndrome actually. Um and it's not hair going gray, it's hair literally going white, like rogue white in
How does that
X-Men.
happen? Like, what is the science behind that?
So it's it's called, the most often linked to a rare condition called canites subita, which is also
Hmm.
known as Marie Antoinette syndrome. Antoinette. This is distinct from the gradual graying that occurs with age. It's an extremely rare pigment disorder in which all the pigmented hairs in a person's head turn white or gray within days or even hours. It is not the same as gradual graying, which usually develops over years. Blah blah blah. So the mechanisms as to why it happens is there's extreme stress or trauma, sympathetic nervous system overactivation. Basically, uh, was stem cells stop producing pigment cells.
Yeah.
Alopecia areata variant. Some researchers believe it may be a form of autoimmune non-scarring hair loss that selectively affects pigment cells, or stem cell damage. Intense stress can damage melanocyte stem cells in hair follicles, leading to irreversible pigment loss.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so it can be reversed with like if like the trauma or stress or whatever the case is, if something that is biologically happening with you can be taken care of, the stress can be diminished, if the trauma can be diminished, the whiting will go away and it will return to the regular pigment. I was curious because they said she disappeared for hours and her hair went white,
Yeah.
and so I got curious.
She said she had no memory of the missing hours. Doctors couldn't explain it. I don't know if, I guess they couldn't explain her memory missing because obviously you can explain hair turning white. Investigators couldn't replicate it. but the forest didn't need to explain anything. Electronic, or it doesn't think it needs to anyway. Electronic devices malfunction only in certain areas. Compasses spin, but only near specific trees. Animals avoid the dead zone entirely. And voices, those are the worst. Multiple hikers report hearing their own names whispered from the tree line, sometimes in a familiar voice, sometimes in a child's voice. I know you like that one.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes in a voice they swear was standing right behind them, but when they turn around, there's nothing. Researchers have tried to categorize Hoia Baciu phenomena, but the forest refuses to fit neatly into any box. Some believe it's an interdimensional hotspot, a thin place where reality folds. Others think it's a residual haunting field, replaying emotional imprints like a broken record. Geologists point to magnetic anomalies. Folklorists point to forest spirits. UFOologists report to the 1968 craft. But the truth is simpler and stranger. Hoia Baciu behaves like something that is aware of being observed. If you ever visit Romania, you can walk the trails of Hoia Baciu yourself. Just stay on the path, don't wander into the dead zone, and if you hear your name whispered from the trees, no, you didn't. It sounds kind of like the Appalachian Mountains. If you saw something, no, you didn't. In Siberia, there is a lake so old it predates the human species. A lake so deep it holds nearly a fifth of the world's unfrozen freshwater. A lake so strange that Soviet military divers once surfaced in terror, refusing to go back down. A lake where lights move beneath the ice, where entire legends are born from the silence between heartbeats. This is Lake Baikal, the sacred sea, and we're diving into the phenomena that have baffled scientists, terrified soldiers, and inspired centuries of folklore. Lake Baikal sits in southern Siberia. They say it was carved by tectonic forces over 25 million years ago, making it the oldest lake on Earth. It's over 5,300 feet deep, the deepest freshwater lake known, and it is home to unique species found nowhere else, including Baikal Sea. The indigenous Buryat people call it Delanor, the sacred sea. They believe spirits guard its depths and that the lake itself is alive, aware, and watching. And honestly, after what we're about to explore, you might agree. For centuries, locals have reported strange lights moving beneath Baikal's surface, glowing orbs drifting under the ice, darting like intelligent creatures, or hovering in place as if observing. Modern witnesses describe white and sometimes yellow spheres moving at impossible speeds, lights rising from the depths and vanishing into the sky, silent flashes illuminating entire coves. These sightings aren't fringe, they're part of Baikal's documented folklore and modern reports. Some attribute them to geological activity, others to atmospheric reflections, and some to something else entirely. In 1982, during a Soviet Navy research mission, 7 elite divers, part of a scientific expedition, encountered something they could not explain. According to later reports, their sonar detected large, fast-moving objects beneath them. These objects were glowing and moving in coordinated patterns. There were 6 of them, each far larger than any known submersible. The divers attempted to pursue one of the objects. That's when everything went wrong. The objects accelerated vertically and disappeared into the depths. The divers surfaced shaken, reporting that the objects moved with intelligence, not randomness. This incident became one of the most whispered about military encounters of the Cold War. This is the part of the story that feels like it should be fiction, but it isn't treated that way in Russian military lore. During the same era, multiple Soviet divers reported encounters with humanoid beings underwater. Descriptions include tall, slender figures, wearing silvery suits with large helmet like heads, moving effortlessly at depths humans cannot survive. Some divers claimed these beings appeared in groups, watching, observing, then vanishing into the dark. One diver described a sensation of being studied. Another reported a sudden pressure wave that forced the team to abort the dive. The
It's a probing. Like, I'm out of here.
These accounts remain officially unconfirmed, but they persist in military circles, resurfacing again and again. Baikal is famous for its unexplained underwater sounds, booms, hums, and metallic ringing that seems to come from nowhere. Scientists have recorded low frequency hums, sudden percussive booms, and echoes that travel for miles. Some attribute these to shifting ice, others to tectonic activity, but locals insist the lake is speaking, warning, calling, and remembering. Just like Hoia Baciu, Baikal has its own version of the time slip phenomenon. Fishermen describe drifting into fog and emerging miles from where they should be. Hikers report hearing voices calling their names from the water's edge. These stories echo across generations. This place sits on a continental rift zone. The lake itself is still widening inch by inch. It has active hydrothermal vents. Its depths create extreme pressure and temperature gradients. All of these factors can produce light refraction, underwater gas releases, magnetic anomalies, and strange acoustics. But even scientists admit Baikal produces more anomalies than they can comfortably explain. The Buryat people believe Baikal is home to water spirits and ancestral guardians, entities that protect the lake from harm. They warn that Baikal remembers every trespass, and that those who disrespect it may vanish into its depths. Given the lake's history of disappearances, some locals take this very seriously. Gas vents, magnetic anomalies, and extreme pressure could explain some sightings. Some believe the Soviet Navy was testing experimental submersibles. Baikal's isolation and age make it a hot spot for unique life forms. Could be aliens. This theory stems from the humanoid reports and the 1982 incident. The lake's reputation may shape perception, but not all witnesses knew the stories. Lake Baikal is a place where science and myth overlap so tightly you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. A place where lights move with purpose, where divers meet impossible beings, where the water hums with ancient memory.
I think maybe like this could be like a government experimental like station under the lake. The lake
Mm.
keeps spreading, it says, like it's going inch by inch, like getting wider and wider.
Well, it's on it was formed by tectonic plate activity, and, it's still moving. The earth is still alive.
Hmm.
Stuff is still shifting, so that would be why it may still be widening. I don't know.
Yeah, but I feel like if like I don't know. I feel like if tectonic plates shifted a certain way, that maybe the water would start draining or something, not necessarily widening,
It'd
unless
be cool
there's
if it did, then we could see what's in there. It's interesting. I get where tectonic movement could make those sounds. That makes a lot of sense.
absolutely.
Um, but it's the sightings and the disappearances, I guess, that
Because,
are
well, see, and
peculiar.
so what I feel about that is like these divers are seeing these figures at depths that no human can survive at. Are these divers? Well, they probably are, but are they properly suited? Are they hallucinating these things at these depths? And I'm just being, devil's advocate here, um, because you know different pressure changes happen. Human bodies go through different things. And their bodies react differently. So, are they actual figures or are they being hallucinations.
They could be hallucinations. I mean, you have to take into account how long they've been under the surface, um, what kind of pressure they're dealing with. Uh, you also have to factor in all of the folklore and the stories surrounding this
Mm-hmm.
location, um, at depths that they're diving. I'm sure it's disorienting, but they're also trained,
Mm-hmm.
and are acclimated to that sort of environment. Maybe they're just some weird freshwater squid
Maybe it's a bunch of sturgeon in an overcoat.
that with flashlights.
With a detective hat.
Because the lights.
Yeah, I know. And what are they
Jeez.
holding the flashlights with? They don't got opposable
Their
thumbs.
mouth. Duh.
Oh, duh. Because they need sturgeon to be the arms anyway. So why would their mouths would be their hands? Makes
Uh-huh.
sense.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
hmm it's just like a shark's mouth is also their hands. That's how they touch you to figure out what you
That's
are.
that's how they shake hands. Sometimes they just shake a little too hard.
Uh, okay.
If Lake Baikal is the ancient eye of the world, watching, remembering, holding secrets older than humanity, then our next story takes us somewhere very different. Not to the oldest lake, but to a hole in the earth that seems to have no age at all. No bottom, no explanation, and no geological logic. From the frozen depths of Siberia, we travel now to the high desert of Washington state, to a patch of land outside Ellensburg where a man named Mel Waters claimed he found something impossible. A hole that swallowed everything, a hole that defied physics, a hole the government allegedly tried to erase. Imagine a hole in the ground so deep that no rope, no weight, no instrument ever reaches the bottom. A hole that animals refuse to approach. A hole that locals whisper about but never investigate. A hole that, if you believe the man who discovered it, was seized by the US government and erased from the map. We are now descending into one of the strangest modern legends in American folklore, Mel's Hole.
Oh, jeez.
The story begins on February 21st, 1997, when a man named Mel Waters called into Coast to Coast AM, the late night paranormal radio show hosted by Art Bell. Rip Art Bell. Passed away in 2018. He did. He was like the forerunner for all the paranormal shows like that are out now, all the podcasts, everything.
Yeah.
Mel claimed he owned rural property near Ellensburg, Washington, and on that land was a mysterious hole locals had been using as a dumping pit for decades. No matter what they threw in, there was never a sound of impact. Mel said he tried to measure its depth using fishing line and weights. That is a lot of fucking fishing line.
Mm-hmm.
He lowered over 80,000 feet, more than 15 miles worth of fishing line, and
Dang.
still never hit bottom. That's when the legend ignited. Mel described several bizarre properties. Shouting into the hole produced no echo, no reverberation, nothing. Dogs refused to approach within 100 feet, pulling away violently. And who can blame them? It's a bottomless hole. The air around the hole remained strangely warm, even in the wintertime. Mel said the hole's interior was lined with smooth black stone, not natural basalt, but something polished and uniform. I think my son showed me this in Minecraft, right? It's obsidian.
Yeah.
One local allegedly threw a dead dog into the hole. Why
Why?
would you do that?
They didn't feel like digging a hole.
The hole's already
Wait.
there. Days later, the same dog was seen alive, wearing the same
Uh-uh.
collar.
Nope. Mm-mm.
It's a pet cemetery all of a sudden.
Yeah. If that After that happened, how many more people went and threw stuff in the hole that was dead?
Henry, go dig up Ma!
Right? I mean, nothing comes back the same.
Right. Always a little different.
Hmm.
But yeah, that is a curious thing. What else was thrown in there without anybody else knowing? And then before before like it was seized, before the land was seized, how many people disposed anything else in there
Right?
of questionable means?
Right. Yeah.
This is where the story shifts from weird geology to what the hell is happening. After Mel's radio appearance, he claimed the U.S. government seized his land. According to Mel, federal agents arrived. They blocked access to the property, and they told him a plane crash had occurred on his land. They offered him $250,000 a year to leave the country.
What?
Just get on out of here. He was allegedly relocated to Australia, the whole other side of the world. When he returned years later, he said that his property was fenced off, that the road was rerouted, and locals denied the hole ever existed.
Okay, Mel. Now it sounds fishy.
Does
Now,
it though? Because I mean, if they're offering Mel Waters $250,000 a year to leave the country, you don't think they could have bought out the rest of the people there?
um, yeah, but people can't keep secrets. You
We'll
know,
throw your dogs in the hole for you. Don't you worry.
I people just can't keep their mouth shut. It doesn't matter how much money you give them. I would think they would have to just kill off all of the locals that were there at the time and bring in new locals that really didn't know anything.
Well, unfortunately, there's always the people that do have a price, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying. People
You
can't keep their
you're
mouth shut.
you are right though. There are going to be those. I mean, you see it in movies. I know they're just movies, it's media, but you see the people that are like sitting at the diner and the people are coming in, they're like, "Yeah, we're investigating this thing." And the people are sitting there kind of like glancing over and like, nah, I got something to tell you that they're telling me not to say anything. And there's always
Yeah,
somebody that does open their mouth. You're right.
yeah, there is.
This is the part of the legend that fuels conspiracy theorists like we're doing now. Why would the government care about a hole? Mel's hole specifically. Unless it wasn't just a hole. Mel later claimed he found another hole, this one near Manistash Ridge. This second pit had even stranger properties. He's just creating these things now. Objects lowered into it became weightless. A bucket of ice lowered into the hole returned as warm, flammable gel. A sheep lowered into the hole allegedly returned changed. Not a dead sheep, this not like the dead dog. Mel described a creature emerging from the hole's depths, a being that communicated telepathically. Now, real quick here, quick little tangent. You remember that Huska castle I was telling you about?
Yes.
It's very similar.
Mm-hmm.
They had a hole which they built a well over to seal off. That locals there also talked about having seen creatures crawl out of it. A lot of half beast, half people kind of creatures too. So
Yeah.
it's curious because that story's, I don't know whose hole it was, but um it was it's a longer, it was like 1600s I think that
Mm-hmm.
the stories of that one was like that were came about, and Mel's hole here is different time period, but
Right.
so curious because similar stories. I'm rambling, sorry.
No, it's okay. There is a very is very similar to one another. The
Mm.
stories are.
This is where the legend crosses into full paranormal territory. Geologists point out a 15-mile deep hole is impossible with known drilling tech. The deepest hole ever drilled, the Kola Super Deep Borehole, reached 7.6 miles. A perfectly vertical, stable shaft in loose desert soil is geologically absurd. No satellite imagery has ever confirmed such a structure. But here's the twist. Multiple locals called into the show claiming that they had seen the hole. Some said they threw trash into it as kids. Others said their grandparents warned them never to go near it. Folklore spreads because it feels true, not because it always is. The region's indigenous tribes, particularly the Yakama and Umatilla, have stories of spirit holes, earth openings, places where the dead travel, and sites where animals behave strangely. These stories predate Mel by centuries. Mel's Hole fits neatly into a much older mythic pattern. The idea that certain places are thin, where the boundary between worlds weakens. Could it be a sinkhole or lava tube? Possible, but not at the described depth or behavior. Is it a government test site? Some believe Mel stumbled onto something classified. It could just be a hoax. Mel never provided proof, but he also never profited.
He didn't profit, but he might have just liked the notoriety being talked about, you know?
Yeah, but what's the point of that? I mean,
Some people was Mel a narcissist.
Mel was like, exposure, baby. The artists do it all the time.
Yeah.
Or could it be something paranormal? A portal? A thin place? A wound in the earth? You choose your flavor. Mel Waters disappeared from public life after his final radio appearance. His land, if it existed, remains unverified. The hole, if it existed, remains because there's something irresistible about a mystery with no bottom, a story that swallows every explanation, a hole that refuses to end. And maybe that's the point. Some mysteries aren't meant to be filled, they're meant to pull us deeper. If Mel's hole is a wound in the earth, a place where gravity, biology, and physics unravel, then our next story takes us somewhere the sky itself seems to rupture. Because sometimes the impossible doesn't rise from the ground, sometimes it falls from above. From the sagebrush plains of Washington state, we travel west to a quiet logging town where, in the summer of 1994, something began to rain from the sky. Not water, not hail, and not ash, but gelatinous, translucent blobs. Blobs that made people sick, blobs that contained living cells, blobs no agency ever claimed responsibility for. We are talking about the mystery of the Oakville blobs. On August 7th, 1994, at 3 a.m., the residents of Oakville, Washington woke to the sound of rain. But when they stepped outside, they didn't find water on their porches, cars, or fields. They found gelatin, clear, sticky, jelly like blobs, thousands of them, covering everything. Within hours, people started getting sick, animals fell ill, and the town realized this was no normal weather phenomenon. Oakville is tiny, a rural logging community in the Pacific Northwest. Quiet and remote, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone. But that morning, the town woke up to blobs the size of rice grains to jellyfish, a slippery film coating roads and rooftops, a substance that dissolved when touched, and no one, not the sheriff, not the weather service, not the military, could explain it. Within hours, people developed severe nausea, vertigo, they had difficulty breathing, with extreme fatigue. Animals were hit even harder. A woman named Dottie Hearn, one of the first to report the blobs, collapsed in her home. Her daughter found her barely responsive. Veterinarians reported cats and dogs dying suddenly after contact with the substance. This wasn't just weird weather, it was biological. Local doctors sent samples to a lab, and the results were unsettling. The blobs contained white blood cells, two distinct types of biological cells, no nucleus, and no known origin. One microbiologist described the sample as a biological matrix, something that looked alive or once was alive, but didn't match any known organism. Another lab claimed the blobs contained bacteria found in human digestive tracts. So now the question wasn't just what fell from the sky, but who did it come from? Residents reported that in the weeks before the event, military aircraft were frequently seen flying over Oakville. Low, loud, constant. Some locals believe the blobs were waste from military aircraft, like we were just talking about, a biological experiment, or a dispersed test gone wrong. But the FAA said no aircraft released anything, and the military denied involvement, of course. The blobs didn't fall just once, they fell 6 times over 3 weeks. And each fall, they covered the same area. They produced the same symptoms and contained the same biological material. This wasn't a one off anomaly, it was a pattern, or at least becoming one. Some scientists proposed that the blobs were the remains of bombed jellyfish, vaporized during military training exercises over the Pacific. How does that make any sense? They're thinking these jellyfish are gonna just fly out like they when they explode they just fly out of the sea
Mm.
and rain down from the clouds.
Sure, why not?
Okay, I'll go with it. The theory goes that bombs hit jellyfish, the remains aerosolized, winds carried the particles inland, they recondensed, and fell as gelatinous rain.
Of course.
So they went through the whole cycle of evaporation and everything,
Mm-hmm.
went into the clouds soaked them in, and they got full and burst down onto the northwest, the
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. But marine biologists pointed out that the cells didn't match jellyfish. Jellyfish don't survive aerosolization. Nope. I don't think anything really does.
What does that
whiz.
matter?
That's what we pay those scientists for.
What does it matter if they survived? These were little tiny blobs. No one said they survived.
Because the white cells are alive. White cells are alive.
Oh. Jeez. Okay.
Jellyfish don't survive You try and aerosolize anything living. See if it survives. You tell me. The falls were too localized. But still, it remains one of the most repeated explanations. Another theory, the one Oakville residents whisper about the most, is that it was chemical warfare. All against Oakville. Oakville must have been a good war point.
Nah, guinea pigs.
Oh, good call. The symptoms, nausea, dizziness, respiratory distress, all resemble reactions to biological agents, and the dispersal vectors, aerosolized pathogens, obviously. So, the repeated falls suggest controlled testing. You hit it on the head. And the military flights, they didn't stop until the blobs did. Coincidence? Maybe. Not in my head.
Yeah.
One theory meteorologists proposed was that it was a rare weather phenomenon. Updrafts pulling oceanic material into the sky and mixing with atmospheric moisture, falling as gelatinous precipitation. But again, the cells didn't match marine organisms. The falls were too targeted, and no storms were recorded. Nature doesn't
Right.
usually behave with this kind of precision. Some researchers believe the blobs were a previously unknown life form, a proto organism, a biological structure not yet classified, something that lives in the atmosphere or forms under rare conditions, or arrived from somewhere else. Multiple labs reported that samples were lost, samples were destroyed, and records were incomplete. One technician claimed the CDC took their samples and never returned them. Another said the military requested all materials. Officially, no agency has any remaining samples. Unofficially, that's exactly what Oakville residents expected. People were hospitalized and animals died. No one was compensated and no one was given answers. To this day, Oakville residents feel they were part of something they didn't consent to. A test, a mistake, a spill, a breach. Pick your poison. Local stories now describe the sky shedding, or the world leaking, the boundary between realms thinning. Some believe the blobs were a biological echo or a dimensional residue, a byproduct of something passing through. It's folklore, yes, but folklore often forms where science refuses to look. The official answer is that there is no answer to this day. No agency claims responsibility, no scientific consensus exists, and no samples remain, and no explanation fits all the facts. The Oakville blobs remain one of the most documented yet unresolved biological anomalies in U.S. history.
From Hoia Baciu's forest that watches back, to Baikal's deep that never forgets, to Mel's hole where reality slips out of sight.
Pretty loose.
Oakville reminds us of a quieter truth. Sometimes what falls from the sky isn't a message, a miracle, or a warning, just a reminder that the world is stranger than we allow ourselves to believe. And every so often, it leaves something at our feet that refuses to explain itself, daring us to look up, look closer, and wonder what else is out there watching the way we watch the dark. And maybe that's the real story here. Not the mystery itself, but the way it lingers, the way it makes you question the ordinary, the way it whispers that the veil is thinner than you think. If you've ever seen something fall from the sky that didn't belong, if you've ever felt the world tilt for just a second, if any of our stories today stirred a memory you've never quite shaken, tell us, share it, add your piece to the strange, because stories like this don't end, they echo, and yours might be the next one we follow into the dark.